Welcome back to another episode of the Bourbon Lens with your host, Jake and Scott. In this week's episode, we are going to be talking to someone who's famous, but they're also a whiskey enthusiast, and that's Gabriel Macht. You might know him from Suits famed, but he is now part of the creative team and investing into Bearfight out of North Carolina. So sit back and buckle into the latest episode of the Bourbon Lens. Gabriel, thanks for joining the Bourbon Lens. We appreciate it. We know that you are a busy individual, but we want to say thank you first and foremost for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. As I said before we started, you guys are, real sort of enthusiasts, and I'm just glad to be here. So take whatever I have to say with a grain of salt. But no, I'm happy to be here and to explore, what Bearfight is and what you guys think of it.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting brand and something that we've explored a few different times over the years. And having tried the single malt and the Kentucky bourbon finished in tequila casks, so we've had a few different soirees and tasting it. But to get in the conversation, a lot of people know you from your work that you did as Harvey Specter in the show Suits, and we'll want to start with the idea of, do you like whiskey in your own free time, right? Because that character always had high-end scotch and had the high-end everything. I believe Macallan was the drink of choice in the bottles on set. So for you, how does that translate? Was that an easy kind of hey, I like whiskey, so this is an easy character thing? Or was that something you had to kind of study up on and figure out if you enjoyed it or not?
Well, no, I've always enjoyed whiskey. In my early 20s, I moved to New York after going to college in Pittsburgh. I went to Carnegie Mellon University. And about 3 or 4 of us, 5 of us, got a big loft in Tribeca. And one of my buddies, Joe, who I went to high school with, he started introducing me to whiskeys. And we had a good time in my early 20s. We had a really nice time at Knob Creek and, what was the other ones? Maker's Mark. That's where he introduced me to some of the bourbons. And so I enjoyed whiskey throughout, and I'd always drink it straight up and maybe with a little ice here and there. And then when I found out that my great grandfather, my paternal grandfather, used to drink Ballantines. So I was like, oh, all right. So this is in the blood.
Yeah.
And then I think my brothers and I would have some whiskey here and there. It was always sort of a drink we had when we were playing poker. And then, and then, when the show rolled around and, I got the opportunity to play Harvey, I think it made sense that he was a Macallan's guy, and he was, the whole aspirational thing, the whole top shelf. If you're going to do it, you got to do it right. And that whole thing. And he drank whiskey in success and in sorrow, when he was grieving, I think he pulled it out. And I think there's a story where he was connected to his dad with whiskey.
Yeah.
And so that story sort of got some legs, and it became part of who Harvey was. Now, little does everyone know, and I hate to completely kill anybody's image of it, but I was drinking tea the whole time. I mean, they never filled that stuff with whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It'd be better if it did, right? It would make it more realistic, but I'm sure take 57 of a scene probably wouldn't go so well.
Exactly. And I'm a guy who likes to have a lot of takes. I'm not 1 or 2 takes. I need 8 or 9. So you would have seen me on the floor completely passed out. But anyway, when Suits had its resurgence last year, and it was already very successful. I think it was actually very successful worldwide, and while we were shooting. And then Netflix picked it up last year, and it just went bonkers. Sure. There was a whole lot of opportunities that came along with that for me, for some of my castmates. And whiskey was always a category that made sense for this brand based on Harvey.
Yeah.
And, I like the taste of it. And it's an interest to me. And so a friend of mine introduced me to the guys at Next Century Spirits and said, Seth MacFarlane's an investor. He was going to be the face of the brand. And Family Guy, if anyone knows what it's like to be a showrunner, you are just writing and, you're in a writer's room all the time. It takes up your entire life. And Seth very much wanted to be a part of it, but he couldn't do the commercial work and the assets that are needed to sell the whiskey. And so they came to me, and we all sort of aligned on where we wanted to be creatively. And I think who these guys were, Next Century, and who I was, and it took a little while to formalize everything. But once we did, we got this incredible team around us. And for me, as an actor, you get to, as an actor, my job has always been to expand on if you're in television, to expand on the writer's vision. And if you're in a film, it's a director's medium. So you're trying to expand on the director's vision. Having been a director and producer, I always find that that's where the slot is, and I'm trying to express something through other people's words.
Yeah.
Now with Bearfight, I was able to assemble a couple people that were very talented, and we started brainstorming, and we just started to be really creative. And so I was thinking in my sort of second career as an actor, I've been working for, I don't know how long, but, Suits took up 9-10 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to explore the world and raise my kids and be here for them. And so it just felt like the next step for me is I could tell stories. I can have agency in the story that I want to tell and the narrative I want to tell. And that's where my sort of skills come as far as the brand comes. And we've been to New York, and we've shot some social media stuff. And then I went to LA, and we shot a big commercial that'll come out early January 2025. And we've just got a really great narrative that I can get behind, which is What's Your Bearfight?
Yeah.
And we can talk about that, but I don't want to keep rambling.
No, you're doing great. But, it is very interesting to see how, you kind of look at everything through the worldview that you have, working through writers and expanding the character, or working through a director and expanding kind of the visionary cast. And I think there's a lot of room to cast a lot of vision with Next Century and Bearfight in particular, because you're carving out a space that's not only bourbon, but it's also American whiskey, right? Because it's American single malt and other spirits. That's I think thing that interests me the most is you're not going to be pigeonholed into a category per se. It's really, you all can kind of do whatever you want because you have so many different whiskey varietals at your fingertips. Does that give you a lot more creative liberty to be able to express, what you all want to do as you all move forward into 25 and beyond?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at first, I'm new at this. This is my first sort of venture into the equity part of entrepreneurial venture. And so all I was trying to do is understand what is Bearfight whiskey? How do we make Bearfight approachable and accessible? And go from a very universal message, which I think really resonates with everyone. Everyone's got their own Bearfight, whether big or small, whether it's a chore at the end of the day, picking up the leaves, or, training your 10-week-old puppy, just getting through the day. That could be, as small a challenge as that is, or as large a challenge. Maybe you're, maybe you're trying to work out how to give yourself self-care, and like you find moments in the day just to go for a walk, put your phone down. Maybe it's just listening to music. Maybe it's just finding a rhythm. Maybe it's getting a buddy out and going for a walk and connecting. And if, as hard as these little moments are to fill into our very, very, very busy lives, maybe these are the moments that we can celebrate as victories. And at the end of the day, have a responsible moment and enjoy your bear fight. Everyone's got them. And then, it can go as big as like climbing Mount Everest. That's my bear fight. I want to climb Mount Everest. Or it could be just learning an instrument. I think that for now, this message can build and build and build and build, specifically to the Kentucky Reserve and bear fight.
Yeah.
I think that is our baseline right now, and we'll expand as we move forward. What that means, who knows? Now, what's interesting to me also is and I don't know how you guys feel about it, and I'm interested, but as far as like the category of whiskey, it has always been perceived to me that it's like stiff and conservative and very manly and, only men. And it's like a little bit testosterone driven, drawing room intellectuals and also just out camping. You know what I mean? That whole like image. And we kind of wanted to like break that down. And I think the challenge is, so for me, everyone sort of like connects with Harvey Specter, who is like type A, aggressive, metrosexual, like full on, win at all costs, all of that kind of stuff. And I think Bearfight is way more approachable. And that's who I am. And it's taken me years to like shed the Harvey persona.
Yeah.
And so I think more people, I think that's an aspirational thing. And so we can lean into that at times, but I think we can also break that down at times and be more playful and more just accessible in a way. And I think Bearfight, which is not top shelf, although for me, for my money, it tastes great for me.
Yeah.
It is very approachable. It's just very approachable.
Well, I thought it was pretty interesting. And one of the first images that came out with you and the brand was you sipping on a highball, so it's like, it's stepping outside of that, that glass decanter that you would have on the show in a, a neat pour in an office or, wherever, to throw some ice in it, make it a cocktail. So it does help to change that perception. Cause we all know, like, if you haven't watched Suits, you got to watch it, but Harvey is a very interesting character. It's like you want to love him, but at the same time, you just kind of grit your teeth at him as well. So, yeah. So I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. I think even what you're doing with the Kentucky Reserve, it's like, let's mix up this whole Kentucky bourbon category and throw it in a reposado tequila cask. It's like to kind of test people and see how to, expand outside of that circle, that tight circle that always existed.
I think that's right. I mean, we are sort of like trying to break down some of the ideas that are these known ideas and just break out of a comfort zone and see that there's different things going on here. Let's have a little taste of a tequila in that,
Yeah.
I think, and it's playful. It's fun. I think you're right that Harvey guy can be very, look, he's completely manipulative by nature, but he's got a heart of gold. And that's why we love to hate him and then love him. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway.
Well, we can all agree that we hate Daniel. But he was my least favorite person on the show. But
Daniel Hardman, is that what
yeah, Daniel Hardman. Yeah, we didn't like him. There's other people in there we don't like, but the FBI agent, he turned out to be okay at the end. Oh gosh, the blonde haired guy. He was also hated him at first, ended up liking him. The guy you all got to flip to get Mike out of prison. But I think there is a readiness and a interest, to your point, for the bravado, Mad Men type of thing, stigma to go away. And I think you've seen more women approach whiskey. I think you've seen people of all backgrounds approach whiskey. And it's becoming more of a sense of place thing that, maybe Scotland has a little bit more, like with their regions. In America, you can say, oh, I have my Kentucky bourbon, or I have my Texas whiskey, or I have my Tennessee whiskey, right? Like those sense of place things are starting to come in. And so now people are, not to be tribal about it, but they're like, oh, like that's my thing. That's what I like. And people can rally around an idea of a whiskey or a place of whiskey. And I think that's what people are connecting with even more is I'm having my Bearfight or my time down to, have that sip, enjoy that. And it's with whoever I'm in that place with at that moment.
Let's call all the people of Zbillion and say, guys got to sit down and have a Bearfight. I think North Carolina, look, maybe next time we all meet, we have to meet up in North Carolina.
It's not that far. It's a direct flight out of Louisville to Charlotte. It's only an hour. So, for you, as you continue to, branch out and get into this, like what's been the one thing that has kind of stood out to you in the process, right? Like, is it trying a bunch of different whiskeys or learning about the operational side of things? Like what's been the thing that has kind of been like the aha for you with getting into this spirits venture?
I think part of it is, as I've been, sort of thrust into this sort of creative element, it's really what's been really exciting for me is brainstorming and throwing out ideas and being in a room with some really smart people who've got a lot of experience in this and finding the collaboration and the yes and the, let's try that. Well, let's try this. Is that too far? No. Is that too far? Is that too goofy? We want to have a sense of humor with this. We don't want to be too serious. We want to take ourselves. We sort of want to take the piss out of ourselves in the selling of it in a way. If you think about it, I mean, and I'll just be completely transparent. It's very hard for me to be a spokesperson. Okay. I am selling you this, right? Just very hard. I always just come off really, I find myself just a little dry. So anyway, to play with that and to deconstruct that and to find what is awkward about that and what is uncomfortable about that and lean into that. That's been part of my Bearfight with this, which is, as you'll see, one of our first social posts was, it's like a blooper reel. Yeah. It's like, it just becomes, hey, this is what we're selling, and can this guy really sell it? So it's kind of meta, and it's kind of a story within a story. But I think it also speaks to faking it to win it, but also speaks to our insecurities and hoping that people can connect on that level.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And, I'll give you credit. You didn't seem dry in the T-Mobile commercial. You seemed pretty good. I maybe because you had your buddy with you, but I thought, you and Patrick did a good job. It was fun.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. We had a great time with that. I think I'm talking about,
like if you were to sponsor something like, oh, you need to buy this Timex watch because it's the best way to tell time.
Exactly. It's more like really talking to the camera and telling everyone how much I believe in this because my voice matters.
Yeah.
Instead of just playing with that idea, right? Because it does matter. I mean, look, I do love the whiskey, and it is a great whiskey, and it makes sense. It's just that idea of being the salesman. Like deconstruct.
Yeah, no, I feel like that would be hard for anything. Like whenever we've done reads or anything, I feel like it's hard to like get behind it. Like even if I use the product, I'm like, why am I the authority? It's just my experience with it.
Everyone should listen to me.
Yeah, everyone should listen to me. I know what I'm talking about. Just like you, we're on our own journey. We're figuring this out. Like when we started the podcast 5 years ago, I couldn't tell you what the difference between whiskey was and bourbon and Kentucky straight whiskey. I couldn't tell you any of that. thanks to Scott, I can. So I give Scott a lot of credit because he bared with me as I spent way too much money and realized that I needed to spend a lot less money on the whiskey bottles to get good whiskey.
That's amazing. I mean, after listening to your episode, you guys know a whole lot about it. I mean, the intricacies, the nuances, the taste, the notes, where how it's made, the distillery. I mean, it's like the distillation, all of it, from the business. Kudos to you guys for, and to you, if you didn't know anything about it 5 years ago. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, you could teach a course in this.
Well, it's because I had a lawyer as a teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of years through law school, helped me get to this point. No, that's funny. Cause we were actually talking, Jake and I, last night about getting ready for this podcast, and I had to go back and look, and I said, well, when did Suits originally come out? And now, like, it immediately, I saw 2011. I was like, oh God, that's like the worst year of my life. It's when I graduated law school and was preparing for the bar. And that's when Suits came out. So that's kind of the funny thing about Suits for me, is like, I invested in watching it, my wife and I, and it was kind of terrifying, right? Because it's like going into big law, and I was like, oh God, is this the field that I actually want to go into? Fortunately, I didn't go down that path of moving to New York and going into, big corporate law. But yeah, it was Suits helped get me through that summer of studying for the bar all the time. It was like my hour of respite, which was nice.
That's interesting. That's amazing. I mean, yeah, a lot of fans come to me and they say, I got through law school, or I got through cancer, or I got through, the passing of a parent or something. It has helped people through a lot of challenging times, which has been a gift that, people share that. I would, on the flip side, a lot of people come up to me and they're like, yeah, I'm a lawyer because of you. And I'm like, I'm sorry, because this is such a fast-paced drama. The narrative it's nothing like, it can't be anything like law. These cases are done in a week, and obviously it's television, but like, I can only imagine that, have you ever seen Harvey with a book reading? No. I mean, these guys to like read through contracts and the whole thing. I can't imagine what it'd be.
Oh man. So that interesting enough. So, we spend a lot of time prepping. Like, what's it like to prep for, a creative project like this, right? When you think about the reads and the scripts and like that's like kind of the magic, like the distillation project process is the magic that happens in bourbon and whiskey. Like, that's one of the things, just a real quick aside from what we've talked about. Like, what's it like to build on a project, to get a script, to memorize it, I guess, in lack of better terms, and then be able to spill that back out on camera? Like, how hard is that? Because that seems, my mind can't comprehend it, to be honest.
Well, it's very, I mean, look, everybody, you're talking about for being on a series, or
either, or a movie, whatever. I mean, like, I'm sure it's both difficult.
Well, everyone's got their own process. Some people have really great photographic memories, and they can look at the material and they can absorb it in like 2 times. They look through the piece, they read it through twice while they're getting their makeup done in the chair, and they go out there and they spit it out. I mean, there's some incredibly talented guys that can do that. Someone I was listening to, he said when he studies for a play, he reads the first sentence. If he's memorizing it, he'll read the first sentence, and for the next 4 hours, he'll read the first sentence and then the second sentence, and then he'll go back in the first sentence, second sentence, and the third sentence. Whatever the speech is.
Yeah,
and he'll go on and on and on until lunch, and then he'll have lunch, and then from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, he'll do the same thing, and he'll do that for like 3 weeks before the first rehearsal. So he's off book for the play.
Yeah.
I have been known to sort of procrastinate. And so it's one of my, it's traumatic for me to go and learn lines. And so it has taken me, there were days for the first 5 or 6 years where it took me an hour to 2.5 hours, 3 hours to learn 10 pages of dialogue for the following day. So it was brutal on me because any moment I had to myself, I was trying to learn the material. Not to mention that this is all law stuff, so I didn't even understand what the hell I was talking about most of the time. But by memorizing and understanding more and more and more, I got it. And then this comes in and it goes. And the next day, I got to learn 10 more pages. So you can imagine the sense of freedom when I finished. That said, it got easier and easier as time, as I got better at it. But it's still tricky. Look, everyone has a different process. Again, like some people find it easy to be on the treadmill and learn it while their body's moving and the blood is working. Some people put it on tape and they just listen to it on their headphones and back and forth. And so everyone's got like a different way of doing it. It's interesting because on Suits, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of double negatives. And the syntax is very different than just normal natural speak. So it was even that much harder. Aaron Korsh, our showrunner, has a very specific way of writing, and some of it what makes it great, but it's very hard to learn. And I remember when guest stars would come on and they'd be flubbing. And I'm like, it's okay. Just take your time. You're going to get it. It's just a different way of speaking.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that it's fascinating to me because I am like memorization is not my thing. Scott, you actually did the law thing. You had to memorize quite a few things along the way. Like, did you have any tips and tricks, you could teach Gabriel, as he, he'll still act.
I mean, honestly, it was a little bit of the photographic. Like I would picture words on a page, if I needed to remember, a quote or a phrase or something, it would be like, I would memorize what the page would look like and I would try to go back and recreate it in my head. But yeah, I wouldn't be able to. That was more or less like for me to write something back down. Like speaking. Oh my gosh, to have your brain spinning while trying to recall. I mean, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, that's wild.
I'm not a courtroom lawyer either. So,
yeah, I don't know. I have appreciation for acting because like that's something I couldn't do. Like, man. I've tried to do a lot of memorization in my life and, doesn't go over so well, but we keep fighting.
It's tough. I really hope AI figures out a way just to take that little chip and just put it in the back of your head. You download the speech and then I could spit it out. But no, that will probably create a lot of danger in this world.
Yeah. And a lot of headaches probably.
Yeah, probably.
But that's why you have your Bearfight, right? So, and so you can have a nice sip in the evening. So, for you, what's 25 look like for the brand?
I think January we're going to put out a commercial that is fantastic. I don't want to give too many expectations, but someone I've been working with has said a couple of times, like, "Oh, if there was money for a Super Bowl ad, this would be a great ad." It's very dynamic. It's very funny. I think we'll start with that. There'll be slices of that throughout our social media. We're really just trying to raise awareness. I think we'll do some bottle signings. I think I'll probably come out and meet some people. And I don't know if there's, a few, what are they called? Clubs, and we'll see what happens as far as like trying to get some bottles out and meet some people, meet some folks, whether it's distributors or restaurants. I'm game to push the attention towards Bearfight. I think we got a lot going for it, and I'm excited.
Yeah, no, and that's what like I appreciate about this. I know Scott does too. Like, if you're going to invest in something and like your face is on it, like be out in front of people, right? Like that's the most important thing. That would be like our piece of just like kudos to you, because not all people who invest go out and show their face or talk about the brand or talk about those things. And it's really impressive. We know it takes away time from family and friends and your other priorities, but I think it means a ton to the fans. And we just had Dierks Bentley on, who has his Row 94 whiskey, and he's out doing that. And it's so refreshing to see when people invest their time, energy, and effort, but they also invest like the willingness to go and meet the consumer. I think it just pays so much dividends for the brand in ways that you'll never understand to you, but to that consumer, it means a ton to them.
Right. No, that makes sense. I mean, I'm game for that. I'm hoping that, there'll be at least 4 to 6 opportunities next year to do that. And we'll see. We're going to just get creative and see where we think is the best market.
Yeah, for sure.
I leave that into some of the marketing people's hands. I wish I could speak to it better, but this is, again, it's a new thing. They tell me where to go. I'm going to show up and,
Don't worry. We'll just they'll follow Bourbon Lens. We'll make sure that all the press releases come out and they'll be able to get access to that media real quick.
Excellent.
Scott and I are fast on our fingers normally. We get those press releases and get them out.
Very cool. Well, I hope you do. I hope you guys help this brand out. And if we can help you out, in any way we can, I would love to support you guys.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, the press release of you joining Bearfight is our most viewed post over the last month and a half. So you just being you has helped a ton. So, keep doing your thing.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Well, we're really thankful for you spending time with us. Can you tell the listeners where they can find out more about Next Century Spirits and Bearfight?
I think you have to go to nextcenturyspirits.com. And you can go to bearfightwhiskey.com. Bearfight is available in 27 different states right now. We're hoping to get 50 by January. I'm kidding. Hopefully 50 states in the next rotations around the sun. I think you can definitely get it online. And at some point, we're really pushing for this to be a worldwide brand, to be able to identify, this is the Kentucky Reserve. And I love the label here, the bear just taking a sort of swipe at a life. And this is like aggressive thing, but I think it's an eye catcher. Anyway, when you're looking up, when you're at the bar and you're looking up and you see that, I would say, have a try. Take a risk with the bear.
There we go. I like it. Well, we really appreciate you joining us and spending a few moments with us. And we look forward to releasing the podcast and talking more about Bearfight in the coming weeks and months and years as you all go on this creative direction. And, we just want to say thank you and really appreciate your time.
Well, I appreciate being asked, being invited to join you guys. I think you guys are doing a terrific job. I think it's pretty amazing, the knowledge and the experience you have in this category, and how you're really educating so many people about the different brands that are out there. And kudos to you guys again. I thank you again for inviting me, and I hope to see you guys in Zabulian. We're going to have North Carolina. We're flying to North Carolina, and we're going to sit down and we're going to have a little tribe celebration, right?
I like it.
Full celebration.
All right, Jamie, that's on you.
All right, Jamie, make it happen. Come on.
Yeah.
Where's the email?
Yeah, for sure. No, you let us know, we're in. We really appreciate you joining, and thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bourbon Lens. Make sure you're connected with Scott and I via social media on Instagram, X, and Facebook. We'd love to connect. And if you're more the professional type, follow us over on LinkedIn. If you want to know more about Bourbon Lens, make sure you're subscribed to our weekly newsletter, The Weekly Pour. For exclusive content and more, check out Patreon. Follow us there at Bourbon Lens. And last but not least, on your favorite podcast listening app, make sure you're subscribed, because every Monday Scott and I release a podcast, and we would love to have you here listening to the newest features and the newest whiskey news. And until next time, cheers.